think you're online now. So let me go ahead and share my screen.
Okay, Prabhu. So it's online now?
Yeah, you're online.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and share my screen. Yeah, you can start speaking. It's all yours. Floor is all yours now.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Welcome everyone to ISKCON of Silicon Valley's Wednesday Bhagavad Gita class. So today we will be discussing the topic of Jnana Yoga. The title is Yoga Demystified, the path of Jnana Yoga. Previously we saw Karma Yoga in this same series, Yoga Demystified, the path of Karma Yoga. And before we get started today, we would like to seek the blessings of the Gurus and the Supreme Lord, Shri Krishna, so that we may be able to do meaningful service unto them. So we will do a small kirtan, and after that we will do the prayers. So Prabhu, can you please share this one? Okay, thank you. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Nitai Gaur Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Okay, so thank you. We'll do prayers today before getting started. So actually the class is very much related to the import of this prayer. So we pray to the Guru Parampara to remove the darkness of ignorance and show us the path of pure spiritual knowledge, and by their grace we will be able to see what is the absolute truth. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Kṛṣṇa Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, thank you, Prabhu. So let me share my screen. Please let me know when you can see it. Which screen are you seeing?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, yes, I can see the screen.
Okay, slides are visible?
Yes, it's on the first slide.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for confirming, Manish Prabhu. So today we'll be looking at the topic of Jnana Yoga, and Krishna details different paths of how one can achieve self-realization and God realization, of which the three of them are the most prominent, and every other yoga path that we hear of are limbs of these three paths: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. So this is how Krishna classifies it in Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. So we will go through step by step on and find out today what actually is Jnana and what are the types of yoga and whom are they meant for, and what is Jnana Yoga, how does the process work, and what is the how there is a role of bhakti also in supporting Jnana Yoga to achieve its purpose, which is to get liberated from this material existence. So when we talk of Jnana in a very general sense, if you see the dictionaries also define it this way. So Jnana comes from the word Gya and Na. So there is a process by which they come together and they form the word Jnana, and this is used in the sense to know. So there are two ways the word Jnana is used in spiritual literature. One is the general way, where there is Jnana in Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna, and Tamo Guna. And then there is also a specific sense in which Jnana is used. It is directed toward attaining liberation, or going beyond the material existence, transcending it. So in Bhagavad Gita 18.20 to 22, Krishna describes the different jnanas in the gunas, and these are primarily to function within this world, or to describe how people function in this world. So to do any particular activity, there is some knowledge that is needed. Even to start a car or to walk, so everywhere there is some knowledge that is playing a role in it. So is that jnana or is something else jnana? So we will find that out. And vidya is also an alternative name that is used to describe this way to know. So jnana and vidya are typically used interchangeably, and rightfully so. We'll see these usages in the due course. And the other way jnana is used is to convey a particular type of buddhi that is useful to attain liberation. So jnana is actually the type of buddhi in sattva guna which gives rise to the right type of knowledge that is conducive to liberation. So that is that kind of knowledge is used to transcend this world. And when we see in Bhagavad Gita 13.8 through 12, Krishna describes several qualities like amanitvam, madambitvam, ahimsa, kshantirarjavam, acharyopasanam, shaucham, stairyam, atma vinigraha. So he goes on, he describes a lot of qualities, and then he says that adhyatma jnana nityatvam, tattva jnanartha darshanam, eta jnanam iti proktam, ajnanam yat atonyatha. He says that these qualities that I described, they constitute knowledge, and everything else there be is ignorance. So there Krishna is talking about this particular knowledge that is conducive to cross over this material world. So not the knowledge that we refer to in terms of knowledge of computers or knowledge of driving and so on. So that is actually not leading us to liberation. We'll see that maybe it's useful for functionally working in this world, but that's pretty much it doesn't really help us to go beyond this world per se, unless it is used in a service, and so on. So when jnana is described in relation to the gunas, so these gunas, just to give an introduction, these are like ropes that bind everybody in this material world who have a material body and are attached to one or the other aspects of material life. So there are three modes: sattva, rajas and tamas. Sattva guna is gives rise to knowledge, rajoguna gives rise to activity, and tamoguna gives rise to the material or dravya. So the technical terms are sattva is associated with jnana, rajas is associated with the kriya or doing activities, and tamas is associated with the dravya or the material in this world. Though jnana is associated with sattva, but jnana in different gunas also has its existence. For example, the sattva guna jnana, it focuses on unity. So Krishna describes this as sarva bhuteshu yenaikam bhavam avyayam ikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tad jnanam vidhi satvikam. He describes what is satvika jnana. He says sarva bhuteshu yenaikam. So among all the living beings, one is seeing oneness. What kind of oneness? Bhavam avyayam ikshate. So this is avyaya bhava, or the situation where one is seeing the spiritual unity among all the different material beings. So, and therefore it is seeing the unchanging spiritual nature within all material entities. And the characteristic of this is it is focused on unity among, amidst the diversity. Avibhaktam vibhakteshu. And such a kind of knowledge is liberating because it is focusing on the oneness and the connection of everything spiritual, which is conducive for realization of Brahman, or the spiritual truth. So therefore it is described as liberating. And there are other references here from Bhagavatam as well that have factored into what these gunas and how the jnana in different gunas operates. So the jnana in sattva guna is like reflection in clear water. So when something is reflected in the clear water, you actually see a clear image of it. And the jnana in rajoguna, it refers it is focused on differences. So Krishna describes it as pritakttvena tu yajnanam nana bhavan pritak vidhan vetti sarveshu bhuteshu tag-jnanam vidhi rajasam. So what is the rajasika jnana or knowledge in passion, in the mode of passion, has the quality of divisiveness or division or dividing or duality. So there the focus is on differences among the different living beings, and because there is so much focus on differences, the person is unable to see the common spiritual nature, because of which is exclusively being focused on the differences. The property of this knowledge is it causes agitation. So this is just like when the water is disturbed, we cannot see the reflected object clearly. So this is the kind of knowledge in Rajoguna that does not allow us to see the reflection of the truth clearly. Now, there is another type of knowledge which is in the mode of ignorance. So one may think, how come see, knowledge and ignorance don't go together. If you think about it, they're opposites. Either you can be ignorant of something or you can be knowledgeable about it. But here in the guna of ignorance, the way knowledge works is a person hooks onto a particular aspect as all in all. And Krishna describes this as Yattu Kṛṣṇavat ekasmin karye saktam ahaitukam atattvarthavat alpam chatat tamasam udahritam. So what it means is Kṛṣṇavat, complete, ekasmin. So ekasmin karye. So just one part of the work a person takes, or one aspect a person takes, and just delves into it as all in all, with no regard for anything else. So which means the person can't leave the smaller picture because they can't see the bigger picture, and it is binding, and it is against the scripture or against the truth, atattvarthavat, and it is also against reason, because it is ahaitukam. So the person is ignorant about a particular subject or a thing, yet they are blindly attached to it as if they are forced, and they can't leave it, and this is binding. So this kind of knowledge binds the person, and it is actually seldom knowledge but mostly ignorance, and because it's the categorization that's being described, so this is knowledge in the mode of ignorance. So it is like reflection in muddy waters, and which is hardly visible. Maybe some part of the object gets reflected little bit, and the person thinks it's all in all, and bases their life upon that. So that way it is referring to knowledge in the mode of ignorance. Now we'll see this same subject being described in Bhagavatam, and very beautifully Krishna puts it. So this is Uddhava Gita, where Krishna is speaking to Uddhava about jnana in the different gunas, and the jnana that is nirguna or beyond the gunas. Just like we saw that the gunas are like ropes which bind people, similarly there is nirguna, or what happens when someone is not bound. So what kind of knowledge is that? So Krishna is mentioning here, Kaivalyam satvikam jnanam rajo vaikalpikam chayat prakritam tamasam jnanam mannishtham nirgunam smritam. So he says that it's very simple Sanskrit. Kaivalyam satvikam jnanam. So the kaivalya or absolute knowledge. So there is no distinction that's made. So kaivalya comes from the word kevala or oneness. So there is no distinction that's being made. We see the same definition Krishna is using in Bhagavad Gita as well, that it is avibhaktam vibhakteshu. So it is, like there is no separation, or it's all oneness. So that kind of seeing the commonality is Satvika Jnana. Rajo Vaikalpikam Chayat. So Rajo Guna sees like differences or dualities. So Vaikalpa is coming from the word Vikalpa. Vikalpa is giving options, or basically options are existing only because there is something that is different, or dual, and therefore this kind of knowledge is in mode of passion. Prakritam tamasam jnanam, and prakritam is coming from the word prakriti, and this is referring to the material reality. So prakritam tamasam jnanam is that knowledge which is entirely mundane or materialistic, and entirely mundane in the sense it's completely materialistic. And we saw a better we saw a more descriptive form of it in the previous slide, that how a person takes one thing as all in all without seeing the larger picture. Man nishtham nirgunam smritam. So what about the knowledge which is beyond the modes? So Krishna is saying it is based upon him, based upon me. Krishna is saying man nishtham. So the knowledge that is fixed in him or rooted in him, so that is manishtam or transcendental knowledge. So therefore it's important to keep this picture in mind, because when we deal in this world, we may mostly be using materialistic knowledge, and that is what we, when we work, or when we do any material transactions, usually it is materialistic knowledge which is the knowledge in tamoguna, and the knowledge in rajoguna is based on just seeing the duality. Knowledge in satvaguna is oneness, and transcendental knowledge is based on a spiritual platform. We will see that how it is even beyond oneness. Beyond oneness doesn't mean zeroness, but we'll see what exactly it means. So now there is a very important concept here. So all vidya of this world is a product of avidya. So
Prabhu, your voice is very dim.
how is it?
Just now it kind of goes on and off, it breaks.
No.
I think it has something to do with your maybe your wireless speaker or something like that.
Okay. So is it same, or let me ask you, is this any better?
No, Prabhu. But what happens is it comes okay sometimes, and then it goes back. I think it's something to do with your maybe Bluetooth if you are using. I don't know.
I'm not using Bluetooth, but I'm thinking maybe I should.
Now
use...
it is okay. Now it is okay.
Okay, maybe it's the signal then.
Yeah.
So
You're good now.
Maybe my VPN is connected, so let me just disconnect it. I'm sorry for the interruption, but I think this should make it a little bit better, if not much better. Let's hope so. Is this any better or same?
Yeah, no, this is better.
Okay, maybe it's the VPN. Thank you, Prabhu. But overall, was it audible or no?
Somewhere there were breaks when you were speaking, and suddenly there were like you're going very low, the volume was low, and then like that. But it was happening recently. Otherwise it was mostly like very few of your sentences we could not, I mean we could hear, but it was like very low volume. But now it is okay. Are you there, Prabhu?
Yeah, sorry, Prabhu. I think my laptop, the internet had gotten disconnected.
Yeah, now you're back. Now
Okay.
you can share the screen and continue from it.
Yeah. Okay. But is it audible better or no?
Yeah, you are now good. Now you're fine.
Okay. Okay. So, what we saw just now is how the jnana in different gunas works. So, we saw jnana in sattva, rajas, and tamas. And next, what we will be seeing, I'm sorry, I think there is. Do you see only the slide? Okay, yeah. Okay. No, that's okay. So, okay. We saw jnana in the different modes, and after that, there is an important point that in this material world, since the senses are all conditioned, for example, our eyes can only see 400 to 700 millimicrons, ears can only hear 20 to 20,000 hertz, and so every sense that we use to sense this world have intrinsic limitations. And when we look back and look at the shastric description of how this world has sprung into being, we will see in the course of creation, from Mahatattva or Chitta comes Ahankara, and from Ahankara come Jnana, Kriya, and Dravya, and from there, there is Manas and the Devatas on one side, Buddhi and the Indriyas and the sense objects and so on. So all of these come into existence from Ahankar. So now Ahankar is what results in, which is prominently tamas in guna. So if you see this jnana which is coming also, which is in sattva, is coming from ahankar which is in tamas. So there is a lot of technicality here. So in short, what we can say is that whatever knowledge we are getting in this world is conditioned knowledge, and it is conditioned by ignorance. So we are ignorant of the sum total reality, and whatever we understand through our material senses at best shows us part of the reality, assuming the senses work fine within the operating range, and it is therefore all vidya of this world is a product of avidya, or ignorance. Now this can seem like an extreme statement, but nevertheless we can at the least appreciate that our knowledge is conditioned and not absolute in nature. And all these three, jnana, kriya, and dravya, refer to knowledge, activity, and material. If you take any action in this particular world, any particular action in this world, so all these three ingredients have to come together, of course, apart from some other things, to accomplish an action. So, you have a particular idea that you want to work on. So, you need knowledge of that, or you need the idea, and you actually need to do some work about it, and you need material. For example, if I am speaking, there needs to be internet, there needs to be software, hardware, and so on. So all of these work together in tandem to give us the final action in this world, or final experience in this world. And hence Ishopanishad states that those who engage in the culture of nascent activities shall enter into the darkest region of ignorance. Worse still are those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge. So if you think about it, it feels like, why are people in knowledge getting a worse destination than people in ignorance? That's because this knowledge in this material world is also a product of ignorance, or ahankar. So that is a technical thing to note. And now, if this is the case, what is the hope? If all our knowledge is conditioned, how will we ever know what is the truth? What is the truth of our existence, and how to come out of this cycle of birth and death? So which is what many scriptures describe. Many different darshanas in Sanatana Dharma talk about how to get liberated from this world, and that's only because we are eternal, but we are trapped in the temporary stuff. So we need to find a way out. And if our senses are conditioned, how do we get out? We need a paravidya, or the actual knowledge, self-realize, which is conducive for self-realization. And so this is one of the quotes from Mundaka Upanishad, and this is also quoted in Bhakti scriptures. Atha para yaya tad aksharam adhigamyate. Aksharam is referring to the not, which is not kshara, which is not perishable, or the spiritual reality, Brahman. Adhigamyate is to get there. Atha para yaya tad aksharam adhigamyate means that by which one can achieve Brahman. So that is called Paravidya. So therefore Para here. And this is transcendental knowledge, and this arises in from a spiritual source. This is not sourced in the gunas of this material world. So this is arising from the Samvit Shakti of Krishna, which gives some spiritual knowledge based on the disposition of the seeker. So it could be as minimal as just the formless realization, or the realization with form, or with qualities, activities, and so on. So but that is the spiritual knowledge that a person gets from the yoga, the process of yoga. Yoga means connection. So only if there is a connection, we can even transmit this sound across from this particular room to wherever you are. So but this is a material connection. When we talk about yoga, it refers to a spiritual connection. We'll see what yoga is. It refers to an unshakable spiritual union or spiritual connection. And so this kind of knowledge should take us out of avidya, or take us out of ignorance, and give us access to the supreme reality, that which does not change or not subject to change. So it is real knowledge which is liberating. Therefore it is called Paravidya or Divya Jnana, transcendental knowledge. So how is it usually understood, received? It takes the form of scriptures revealed to qualified sages who were in Samadhi. So therefore Vedanta Sutra says Shastra Yonitvat, or Shastra is the source to get to the stage of self-realization. So, and now how does one access what is there in the Shastra? The acharyas, the gurus, they have to reveal what is there, and we have to have access to those acharyas or gurus. Therefore it is important to take shelter in a bona fide sampradaya under a guru who can actually teach these scriptures. And therefore for example in ISKCON there are a lot of gurus, and any spiritual organization will have gurus, and it has to be a bona fide sampradaya. So that way when we take shelter of the gurus, Krishna says one should ask questions to the guru. Tatvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas. He says one has to approach a guru humbly and ask questions submissively, and then the guru reveals the answers, by which one can actually understand what is tattva jnana, or what is reality. And the guru is also coming in the same sampradaya. The guru has received from the previous guru, and so on, and ultimately it connects to the absolute supreme Lord. So ultimately all knowledge is coming from Krishna, and through different sampradayas, there is Brahma sampradaya, and there is Kumar sampradaya, there is Rudra sampradaya, and then there is Shri sampradaya. So in Brahma sampradaya, from Krishna the knowledge came through Brahma and so on, and in today's ISKCON is a part of that sampradaya as well. And there is Kumara sampradaya, where the Lord gave knowledge to Kumaras, and through there the knowledge descended in that parampara. And then there is Rudra sampradaya, where Krishna gives the knowledge to Rudra or Shiva, and from there the knowledge comes in that particular lineage. And Sri Sampradaya, so the Lord gives knowledge to Lakshmi Devi, and from her there is the Ramanuja Sampradaya, from where like the knowledge is passed down. So that way the Guru reveals the knowledge in the bona fide Sampradaya. And then once this knowledge is revealed, the person has to follow a particular sadhana and practice it according to that knowledge. Otherwise, so it is just hearing but not contemplating on it or not practicing it. And when we practice that knowledge, then realization comes from within. So that is realized knowledge. So that is how what we hear becomes our reality. So this Krishna says, Tat Swayam Yoga Samsiddha Kalen Atmani Vindati. So this is the knowledge that comes from within. Now, we at least are convinced that there is knowledge by which one can go beyond this world, and that knowledge comes in yoga with Krishna. But then what is yoga? So yoga refers to an unshakable connection or union, and is also defined as samadhi. And as one progresses on the path of this yoga, one gets purified internally. And how exactly is yoga defined? Is there are differing details, but they all come to this point that internally. So Patanjali describes this as yogas chitta vritti nirodha. So yoga is basically cleaning the chitta and or making the chitta steadying. And its example is given that of water. So when the water is settled and clear without impurities, then one can see the reflection. Similarly, yoga is the process by which one gets purified internally. So external is there, but it has to lead to internal purification, and that is when it is yoga. And when one gets purified, slowly the material covering on the eyes recedes. Ajnana timirandasya jnananjana shalakya. The ajnana or the ignorance that is blinding the eye slowly recedes, and things become visible as they are. Like a cataract which is blinding the eye can be removed by applying ointment. Jnana anjana shalakaya. So that way the eyes can open and actually see the real truth. And it is like the sun is blocked in our view due to a cloud or eclipse, and slowly this will go away in the due course of time by practicing the process of yoga. Now, oftentimes this question comes. There are people who say there are so many yogas. There is Hatha Yoga, there is Kriya Yoga, there is Raja Yoga, there is Laya Yoga, Mantra Yoga, and so on and so forth. Kundalini Yoga, so many yogas are there. So now question is, what types of yogas actually exist and why? We'll see this in the light of Krishna's statements from Srimad Bhagavatam. And why do these types of yogas exist? So Krishna clearly says that there are only three paths. So he mentions those three paths are Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. Asti kutrachit. There is no other means. These are the only three yogas, he says. And the remaining yogas that we hear of are typically parts of one of these yogas. So when we say Ashtanga Yoga, we are referring to a particular flavor of Jnana Yoga. And same, Hatha Yoga, and when we talk about Raja Yoga, it is coming under Dhyana, which may be part of Jnana Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, depending on how it is performed. And Kriya Yoga, there is Krishna actually describes Kriya Yoga as deity worship. So Kriya is activity, and when we do worship of the Vigraha form, there is activity that is involved. So that is what is Kriya Yoga according to the scriptural definition. And now all these different types of yogas are meant for people of different dispositions. And to understand this better, we will see who are we in the first place. We understood that we need purification because our eyes are covered by ignorance, we can't see the full truth. Therefore, some purification is needed. But who is actually getting purified? Is it my eye? Because my eyes can see fine, right? So the answer lies to this in our multi-tiered existence. By multi-tiered existence, what I mean is we are roughly we can understand ourselves as three different layers. In for example, in the Western world, there is a concept of mind-body duality. But if we see the Eastern or the Vedic tradition, there is the concept of a tiered reality that we are a part of. One is our body. So we don't say that our body is false; it exists. So this body is the sometimes also described as Bahya Atma, or the one that is visible to outside. And the second layer is called the Antaratma or Antakarna. So this consists of uh, Buddhi, Manas, Ahankara and Chitta. So all these are different layers. Buddhi, roughly you can think of it as the intellect, Manas to the mind, and Ahankara is the false ego or false identity, and Chitta as the source from where these transformations occur. So we just saw previously how from Mahatattva or Chitta the Ahankara comes in mode of ignorance, and from Ahankara everything else comes out. So Chitta is basically at the root of that tree of material existence. So now this Chitta is what needs to be studied according to Patanjali. And Chitta studying means this Buddhi, Manas and Indriyas fall in place. So Indriyas are what we can see outside, but also there are subtle senses. Manas is our thinking mind, Buddhi is our decisive mind, or like the by which we make decisions, or intelligence, what we call as. And Krishna describes this both in Bhagavad Gita as well as Bhagavatam, that because these Buddhi, Manas and the senses are invested into Vishayas or Indriyarthas or material objects. So what gives meaning to our life, when that thing becomes material, then it results in bondage. Because material things are perishable, they will change. Therefore, if we are invested in perishables, it is going to lead us to bondage. So attachment to these kind of results result in bondage. And the analogy Bhagavatam gives is that it's like a person in a dream, and the person is so invested into the dream, and then once they wake up, then they think, oh, this was just a dream. But this is a very misunderstood analogy, and this sometimes people think that means this world is false, but Bhagavatam clarifies it. Bhagavatam says that the dream is very real in the sense it's actually occurring. You can't say the dream never occurred, because you are able to recollect it in reality once you woke up. So the dream did occur, but the way we were invested into the dream is not true. So we saw a different meaning to our life in the dream, but this is that kind of attachment or that kind of investment in the dream is what is not real, or what doesn't have a real basis. That's why we feel relieved after we wake up. So if it's a bad dream, so that is the attachment that is resulting in bondage. And now what happens is, this same attachment, when it is redirected to God or Krishna or Bhagavan, or to spiritual substance, Brahman, then slowly the person is getting cleansed, because the thing they are attached to is not material. Just like when there is a iron object that is in contact with fire, it becomes like fire. Similarly, when the individual Jivatma is in contact with the Paramatma or Brahman or Bhagavan, then what happens is the Jiva slowly gets unbound from material existence and bound to the spiritual existence. So that is what is yoga in short. The reconnection that is happening when the Jiva is reorienting from the material to the spiritual. So basically we are turning our face from what is material to what is spiritual, and therefore all the yoga processes ultimately focus on the inward. So when we see pratyahar, one of the stages of yoga, there is the action of drawing the senses inward. And that is basically the way to understand that the person is not invested in external material reality, but trying to be invested in the internal spiritual reality, which is also all pervading, and beyond it, interpersonal, like Paramatma, and completely the personal form, which is Bhagavan. So there is technicality here, so maybe you can listen again later. But the point here is, this is yoga, to reorient a person from material investment into spiritual investment. The person is completely invested in the spiritual reality now. And why these three different processes of yoga? They actually have a special significance as well. So in Karma Yoga, for example, there is a lot of involvement of body. So in other words, without involving the body, there is no Karma Yoga. So that's the way to understand. And similarly, for Jnana Yoga, without investing the buddhi, there is no Jnana Yoga. And similarly for Bhakti, any of buddhi, manas, indriyas can be used. But ultimately, it's from ruchi stage onward, it's primarily relying on the manas or the mind. Therefore, if you see how Krishna is describing these yogas, he will basically give criteria as to who is a qualified candidate for which yoga. And we'll see how among these the criteria are very stringent for jnana and very liberal for bhakti. And karma in itself is not the end. So karma will eventually transform into jnana, or I shouldn't use the word transform. Karma will eventually conclude in jnana or bhakti. When I am talking karma, jnana, bhakti, I am talking yogas here. I am not talking about a general performance of karma. So this is in relation to yoga. So now Krishna recommends different types of yogas based on the disposition of the living entity. And we just saw the correspondence before, how depending on which aspect of our existence we are tuned more into. Now, for example, somebody may be very intellectual, and somebody may be like, they just need to be productive. If they don't work, they can't sleep. And somebody is very devotional, or emotionally attached, let's say. So for different types of audiences, different yoga systems are natural to follow. And we see the same thing Krishna is recommending here. Nirvinnanam jnana yogo jnasinam iha karmasu. We see jnana yoga, the path of philosophical speculation, is recommended for those who are disgusted with material life and are thus detached from ordinary fruitive activities. So those intellectuals, for example, who are seeing oneness in everything. So how do you actually study a subject? There are different things, and you try to find a general rule or a categorization of that. Basically, you develop abstractions over the concrete forms. That's how you study a subject, and that's how we can come up with principles, sutras, and so on. So now we boil it down to the bare minimum abstraction, and then you conclude that this abstraction is the source of everything that is existing out there. So that way the Jnana Yogi says that, no, I am not this body because it is transforming, but I, the witness, is not. I am not this laptop because it is transforming, it came into being at some point, and so on. This is what is described as naiti naiti. Naiti means naiti. So it is not. This is not. This is not it. This is not it. This is not it. Then who am I? I am that imperishable, unchanging, constant witness to all that happens around me. So this is the stage of aham brahmasmi, or I am Brahman. So that is how we saw previously in the Karma Yoga session, that the Karma Yogis in Sattva Guna, they develop detachment, and by detachment they are able to observe, and that contains the seed of Jnana Yoga. And by observing, they are able to conclude or infer that this is not me, and so on, and they come to the realization that there is an unchanging absolute truth that I am a part of. And then there is a process of how to take it further once the theoretical understanding has set in. So we'll see some parts of it today. And then the next type of yoga Krishna describes is karma yoga. Teshu anirvinna chittanam karma yogastu kaminam. Those who are not disgusted with material life, having many desires yet to fulfill, should seek perfection through the path of karma yoga. So now we clearly see that this is contingent upon how detached a person is. So this kind of karma yogi is having desires to fulfill. So this is referring to sakama karma. Or the karma yogi is not disgusted with material life. They still think, as long as I am doing my duty, things are fine and life is going to be happy. So they're not yet unhappy, or they're not yet seeing the complete picture that it can all be taken away in one shot. So therefore the people who are still very much invested in material life should seek perfection through karma yoga. But karma yoga in and of itself is not a permanent sadhana. So it has to either culminate in Jnana Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. So Krishna describes this in 11 in Bhagavatam, that by pure following of the Varnashram Dharma, by purely performing the duties, the person, because of the purity, attains Jnana Yoga or Yadrichaya Bhakti Yoga, I say. So he attains by good fortune Bhakti Yoga. And this good fortune is when they come in contact with Bhaktas, Bhakti Vedantas. That's how Narad Muni comes in contact with Bhakti Vedantas. And so anyway, so basically Karma Yoga is not a permanent path, but it helps purify the senses, and slowly the person moves toward the path of Jnana Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. And for Bhakti Yoga, Krishna describes Yadrichaya mat katadho jata shraddhastu yah puman na nirvinno nati shakto bhakti yogosya siddhida. So he says Yadrichaya, so somehow or other, mat kathadho, in my katha, jata shraddha, one develops faith. So in katha meaning like one develops faith in hearing and chanting my glories, or kirtan. Such a person, being neither disgusted nor very much attached to material life, should achieve perfection through the path of loving devotion to me. So we see how faith is very important here. Though it's not explicitly listed, Krishna also mentions in Bhagavad Gita that Shraddhaval labhate jnanam tat paras samyatendriha jnanam labdhva param shantim achirena adhigacchati. Even to attain knowledge, Shraddha or faith is very important. And so what kind of faith? So if one is developing faith in the personal form of Krishna, then they are going toward Bhakti Yoga. And if a person is developing faith in the abstraction of the spiritual reality and the temporariness of the material world, then they are progressing toward Jnana Yoga path. And as you can see by now, these are two extremes. So karma yoga is for those who are very attached. So sakama karma yoga, and then there is nishkama and so on. So for those who are very attached, and Jnana Yoga is for those who are very detached. They are already very pure. They are they have kind of purified in their internal disposition. Their manas, ahankar, chitta, everything is pure. So they are able to observe calmly what is what, and then they are concluding based on that, and following a sadhana and so on. So they need to be very pure already and detached. And they if there is any impurity that comes up, then they have to again either go down, perform karma yoga, or they have to continue practicing. So that's why when Arjuna asks in the 5th chapter, 5th or 3rd, he asks Krishna, which is better? Should I give up the karmas and take sannyas and follow Jnana Yoga marga, or should I continue in karma yoga marga? So Krishna says Karma Yoga Marga is better, and in that context, Baldev Vidyabhushan, one of the acharyas, explains that uh, Karma Yoga is better because it doesn't have that stringent requirement, and slowly the person can get purified. Whereas in Jnana Yoga, it's very stringent. If somebody falls, then it's very difficult to again, like they have to do purification and so on, a lot of it. So it's not that practical for people in Kali Yuga, so to speak. Then why are we discussing? So this is explained again in purports of in the Bhagavatam, that when we understand what kind of options exist and then finally conclude that something is the best option, then we'll have better appreciation for that conclusion. Therefore, as we can see here, bhakti is very accommodative. But if we first just tell people that do bhakti yoga, it's like it's very valuable, but people may not see it as valuable. Therefore, you actually say what Jnana Yoga is, how great it is, and say how Karma Yoga is, and how ultimately Bhakti Yoga is at the center, and that actually we'll see it empowers both Karma Yoga as well as Jnana Yoga, and these are based on scriptural statements. So what Krishna is saying. So now we saw that through yoga jnana is obtained, correct? And this jnana is needed to get us out of ajnana, or avidya, or ignorance of this material world. Now karma yoga, as we saw, concludes either in jnana or bhakti yoga. But jnana yoga itself is of two types. There is impersonal jnana yoga, where the person is purely philosophically speculating, and based on that they are meditating on the avyakta, or the unmanifest impersonal absolute truth. And so that is one jnana yoga. When many bhakti yogis talk about jnana yoga, that's what they are referring to. And there is other personal jnana yoga, which is followed by Narad Muni, Dhruv Maharaj, where it is primarily dhyana. So it looks like bhakti yoga as well, but it starts with yama niyama and all those practices. So there are some elements of the generic jnana yoga as well. So, and this personal jnana yoga is assisted by bhakti, and here the goal is not primarily bhakti. The goal is to get liberated, but they are still taking help of bhakti to achieve that goal. And therefore, it is also called Bhakti Mishrita Jnana, or the Jnana Yoga that has a mix of bhakti, though bhakti is not primary there. And now this we just saw previously that one approaches the Guru, gets instructions, follows those instructions, gets realization. Now this realization can come in two ways. One, it is achieved by impersonal jnana yogis, and this is achieved based on reciprocation of Krishna. So Krishna says, ye yatha mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvashah. He says that as people approach me in a particular way, I reward them exactly in the same way. So these jnana yogis who are approaching for impersonal realization to merge with the absolute truth, the impersonal absolute truth, to them Krishna is reciprocating accordingly and giving them that kind of a destination. And this kind of jnana yoga, Krishna mentions the important elements of that. We saw that it is contingent upon the buddhi of the person. So intellectual discrimination is important for that. Scripture, following the scripture, whatever the gurus have given them, and then performing tapasya, austerity, yama niyama, and so on. Keen observation. So this is also very important. They can't. They have to be very alert. You can't afford to, go out of track. And inference and logic. So this also anumana is also used again. So all of these are ingredients to get to the realization, and importantly faith as well. So this is what we saw in Bhagavad Gita. Now as we can see, the sadhaka here is trying to achieve that unimaginable impersonal effulgence or impersonal light or Brahman. So Baldev Vidyabhushan describes this as it's like looking with unblinking eyes. So the neutrality of Paramatma is being indicated here. So the Paramatma reciprocates with the sadhaka, gives them the realization. But it's a very, very difficult path here since there is no form in mind. So that's why Krishna says Avyakta hi gatir dukkham in Bhagavad Gita 12.5. Bhagavad Gita 12.1, Arjuna is asking, should I meditate on the those who are worshipping you in your personal form versus those who are trying to achieve your impersonal Brahman? Out of them, who are better? And Krishna says that those who are trying to follow the personal form are better. And not only that, those who are trying to follow the impersonal form, it is very difficult for them to get the impersonal realization. But those who are following the personal form, even if their goal is impersonal, because of Krishna's help, they attain that goal successfully. Of course, they are described as unfortunate because they are using or like they're relying on the form of Krishna only to merge in his impersonal form. So that is other type of impersonalist. And then there is realization that can come when Krishna awards the jnana personally. So Paramatma does reciprocate with everybody who is endeavoring in anything in this world, but it is neutral. Whereas Bhagavan or Krishna in his aspect as a full person is not merely neutral or reciprocal but loving. And this love is what puts Bhakti Yoga at a great advantage because it is directly connected to the heart of Krishna. Krishna says, Sadhavo hridayam mahyam sadhunam hridayam tvaham madanyate na jananti naham tebhyo managapi. He says that sadhus, they are my heart and I am their heart as well. And so much so that they don't know anybody else but me. And I don't know anybody else but them. This is the beauty of love. And this is the exclusive love, Ananya Bhakti. And where the person is completely overpowered by love, so much so that they forget themselves. And Krishna describes this is how the gopis also attain perfection. In the 11th canto, he is describing to Uddhava because they forgot about themselves completely by meditating on Krishna, by thinking of Krishna all the time. They also achieved perfection. Of course, here technicality wise, we are talking about the gopis who are not who are parts of the devatas who appeared. So there are different types of gopis as well, not only the Nitya Siddhas. So those that's how they attain perfection, Krishna is describing. And then this is compared to looking with a special sidelong glance. So this is Krishna playfully giving whatever jnana is needed to the devotee, because devotee knows nothing but Krishna. So Krishna says, okay, you are completely relying on me and I don't have a choice, so I am bound out by love. So he says that I give the buddhi by which they come to me. Where does he say this? Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. After that he says, fine, I give them buddhi yoga, but what kind of buddhi am I giving them? Tesham evanukampartam aham ajnana jamtamah nashyamyatma bhavasto jnana deepena bhasvata. I am giving them a special kind of knowledge. And tesham evanukampartam, to reciprocate with them and out of love, because they are worshipping me out of love, I am also reciprocating out of love. Aham ajnana jamtamah nashyamyatma bhavasto jnana deepena bhasvata. I destroy the ignorance with the shining lamp of knowledge. So this knowledge Krishna is talking about is Vishesha Jnana. This is the Jnana that is coming due to the bhakti of the devotee, and Baldev Vidyabhushan gives this a special name, Vishesha Jnana. So therefore Jnana is important for everyone. So whether one is following the path of Jnana Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, In Bhakti Yoga, the jnana comes without seeking for it explicitly. Automatically it comes by Krishna's grace. In Jnana Yoga, the person has to seek, and out of them, if they are seeking by relying on Krishna's help, it will come still easy to them. But if they are on their own trying to just meditate on the impersonal Brahman without seeking Krishna's help, that is very, very difficult. So that is what Krishna is describing. So now we saw that both ways are possible, jnana and bhakti. So we'll look at how Jnana Yoga is actually performed. So many of us may be knowing already that what Ashtangas are there, and each of the texts that describe it may describe it a little differently. And so we'll see from the eyes of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam how Bhagavatam details this in 2 chapters, and in the 11th canto, chapter 14 and 28, Bhagavad Gita also talks about it in different places. The 6th chapter is Dhyana Yoga, 5th Karma Sannyasa, and 4th is Jnana Yoga. So we'll kind of see what is the general procedure. So first thing Jnana Yoga requires is clear following of rules. So there is no bending here and there. There is no not much. It's not very relaxed. So the yamas and niyamas need to be very carefully observed. So Krishna says, Yuktahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapnavabhodasya yogo bhavati dukkha. So he says that a yogi must be very careful in eating, sleeping, recreating, Prabhu, can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry for the interruption. So let me share my screen again, and we have about 15 minutes, so we'll try to get through the actual process of how Jnana Yoga is performed. So Yama Niyama, so we were discussing how the Ahara, Vihara and Nidra of the yogi, meaning like the eating habits, sleeping habits and the recreation habits, and everything have to be very regulated. And so that is the Yama and Niyama. Yama refers to the do's and Niyama refers to the don'ts. So basically referring to the rules in place. And next is the posture, or what we call asana. So Krishna describes that the yogi should not be seated too high or low. The yogi must be seated erect, hands on the lap, and focus on the tip of the nose. I'm sorry, there is a typo here. Let me just correct it immediately. So not the tongue, okay? So the focus should be on the nose. And why nose? Because it is connected to pranayama. So next what happens is the yogi needs to do the prana shodhana. So that's the word it is used in Bhagavatam. Whereas in popular parlance it is also called as nadi shodhana. Why? Because there are channels through which the air flows, and those channels need to be purified. And there are different channels through which energies flow in general, but this is referring to the pranic energies or the pranayama. And Krishna describes three of them, which is Puraka, Kumbhaka and Rechaka, meaning you take the air inside, hold it, and then release it, and all while focusing on the nose. And while doing this, what happens is Bhagavatam says that the senses, the karmendriyas, are powered by the prana in the third canto. So when we are doing pranayama and controlling the pranic flow, what happens is the senses slowly get relieved from passion and get controlled. And because of the control of senses, now the senses allow us to turn inward, which is called pratyahara. Krishna describes this as the kurmo anganiva sarvasaha, he says in Bhagavad Gita 2.58. So where the limbs of the tortoise, whenever there is a hostile or external circumstance that is perceived as hostile, the tortoise immediately withdraws its limbs into the shell. Similarly, the yogi, to avoid interactions with material energies, turns inward and focuses on the internal gateways to spiritual reality. So that is what is pratyahara. So when we say ahara, it is referring to what we engage in. It's the food. So atyahara is excessive consumption of food, and pratyahara is withdrawing. And what kind of food is being talked about here? Every sense needs its food, which is called the sense object. Like just like we eat normally whatever food items we eat. Similarly, the eyes want to see something nice, ears want to hear something nice, and so on. So all these are the food for the senses. So by doing pratyahara, the yogi is turning inward by disengaging these senses from their foods or sense objects. So that is why it's called pratyahara. And then there is dhyana, which is the next stage. So how many stages we covered here? We did yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara. 5 stages are covered. And this is just to open the actual entry for yoga, which comes in the last 3 stages, which are the main stages of yoga. So one of them is dhyana. And Krishna here is referring to the personal meditation, which is the more easy to perform. So just one second. I think there's a typo here. So sorry. So Krishna basically asks the practitioner that they should meditate on the pranava or the om, and that way they need to bring it from the root chakra. There are different types of chakras or energy centers within the body. This is called Shat Chakra Yoga, and the most base chakra is called Mooladhara Chakra, which is basically supporting every other thing that is above it. And Anahata is the heart, the chakra that is related to the heart. And so gradually one must rise their energy from the root chakra. Mooladhara chakra is also associated with stability and the element of earth. And Anahata is associated with the heart. So slowly one must rise beyond the the perplexities of life and bring the meditation to that of the heart. So it's no longer just external, but it's very much part of the heart. And this Omkara, the form of the Omkara is actually revealed in the course of the meditation. So, and by being fixed in the Omkara, one must do pranayama 10 times at each sandhya, which is morning, afternoon, and evening, for a month. And that way, one conquers the life airs, pranic energies. And Krishna details this in Bhagavatam. So, I am only having like the main points. And then what happens is, in the Anahata Chakra, one must meditate on the blooming lotus flower. So if if you know about the different shapes of the chakras, so lotus is associated in the Anahata Chakra, the heart chakra, where Krishna is present. Where does he say this in Bhagavad Gita? Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto. He says, in everyone's heart I am present. So he is present there. And because with material vision one cannot see, what happens is one starts to meditate on the form of the Omkara, or the transcendental Pranava sound. And in that lotus, one meditates on the sun, moon, and fire and places them in the lotus. All this is happening in a sense in the consciousness, not just mind, but the consciousness. And thereafter, the beautiful form of the Paramatma is established in the fire. Like when we install deities, there is prana pratishtha that is performed. Here the pratishtha is happening in the heart of the practitioner. And then the Paramatma's features are to be meditated upon. So 4 transcendental arms. The appearance is very charming, very beautiful. The color of a fresh rain cloud. The wearing the garments in golden silk, decorated with Shrivatsa gem, and wearing a beautiful garland. The form is brilliant, and it is placed in the fire, and the Lord's effulgence. It's very brilliant and it's captivating. And the particular mood in which the meditator should approach is Krishna's merciful glance is upon the sadhaka. So that way, at this stage, the sadhaka is perceiving the object of meditation as different from themselves. So that difference is still retained at this stage. Now, what happens next is this is the stage of dharana. So dhyana is the stage where one consciously or intentionally puts their focus. And dharana is the stage where the person is more naturally able to focus, and that's why the meditations are more prolonged at this stage. And in Bhagavatam, Krishna is recommending that they withdraw the consciousness from all parts of the body to focus only on the smiling face. So the Lord's smiling face should be the object of meditation for the sadhaka. And then one places their consciousness in space. Vyoma is the word that is used. So, and in that space one gives up the mind, and the yogi should become established in Krishna as Brahman without thinking of anything else. So this is why sometimes it described that it's those who are looking for an impersonal destination, relying on Krishna's mercy, are quite they had the chance to perform personal reciprocation, or personally associate with Krishna, but they choose to forego it. So some of the yogis who want impersonal conclusions, they do this. Others, by meditating on the Paramatma, they get to the stage of smarana, which becomes part of bhakti. So these yogis, they become established in bhakti yoga. And we will see that when Narada Muni is meditating, the form of the Lord was seen from within, and then it disappears. And immediately after that, because he was so full of bhava on seeing the form of the Lord, he starts taking to Nama Sankirtana. Before that, his process that he followed was dhyana. We see this in Bhagavatam. And at this stage, in case of Dhruva Maharaj, there is meditation with the mantra on the form of the Lord. So the Dvadash Akshari is the mantra that Narad Muni gave him, and he meditated on that, and of course the Lord appeared eventually. And so there are different variations of this that are given in Bhagavatam, but all of them rely on Krishna's blessings or support to be able to achieve what the sadhaka is looking for. And then next is samadhi, and in samadhi the yogi's consciousness is completely fixed in Krishna, and one should be able to see themselves in Krishna and Krishna in themselves. So that way there is the non-difference aspect that is being emphasized, and the analogy that's given is uh, the sun's rays are in complete union with the sun. They are not disconnected from the sun. So that way when there is a perception, the ahankara that is comprised of dravya, jnana and kriya. We just saw previously how from ahankara and different gunas, this dravya, jnana, karma, kriya come, and at that stage they just vanish. And the ahankara is basically gone, because at that stage the person is identifying themselves with whatever their spiritual destination is. And Krishna promises that for who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me, in Bhagavad Gita 6.30. So this is the way the whole Ashtanga Yoga works. And some take help of Krishna and some don't. And it is clearly mentioned in Bhagavatam that those who don't take the support of the Paramatma or the help of Krishna, it's very easy for them to fall down. So that's why it's sometimes mentioned that the person can fall down from their destination, because there is no support. So when they are supported by Krishna, then they are reaching the stage from where they don't return back. So therefore it's very important, Krishna also describes that it's a very difficult process. So there are different ways to counteract the obstacles that might come up. For example, one may perform austerities, meditating on the sun and the moon to get relief from heat and cold disturbances, and one may meditate on the air, by doing which the vata disturbances can be counteracted. This is from the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, if I remember right. And sometimes mantras are prescribed. That way, bad planetary influences or basically circumstantial daiva factors, or things that are beyond our control, can be taken care of. Aushadhis or herbs are used to counteract the effects due to snake bites and things like that. And Krishna dhyana. So this is dhyana on the personal form of the Lord, and by doing which one's desires are purified. Krishna, so the mind is responsible for the desires. Krishna says manasashtan indriyana. In 10th chapter he says in Bhagavad Gita that indriyanam manaschaham. So I am the manas, he says. So when by meditating on Krishna, the mind gets purified, and the lust is counteracted. So there is no other desire than to achieve the spiritual objective. And nama sankirtana. So this is also prescribed. But in this particular case, we see that bhakti is playing a secondary role, and jnana is playing a primary role for the jnana yogi. Therefore, the reliance on Krishna is for the sake of attaining, either the impersonal form for impersonal meditators, or eventually, they attain Krishna in his personal form. But and so this is the means. Nama Sankirtana is also recommended here, because Nama gives all the results, and it's the best path, especially in Kali Yuga. And so conclusion here, I think we are almost out of time, is that Jnana Yoga is a valid path, and our scriptures mention that by following Jnana Yoga also one can attain liberation. And Jnana Yoga has two types we saw. One is the goal is personal versus the goal is impersonal. And when the goal is impersonal, there the person can still rely on the personal grace of the Lord, and then attain the impersonal goal. Or when the goal is itself personal, it is counted among bhakti, because the dhyana becomes like smarana. Smarana is one of the angas of bhakti. We will see in the next time if we cover when we cover bhakti. That time we will see that how these are related. And then Krishna says in in essence that impersonal meditation is troublesome and therefore personal meditation is better. Even if the goal is personal or impersonal, personal meditation is a better path. And then in the personal meditation, the best thing is there is Krishna in the picture in his direct personal form. Because of which, why is he there? Because he is attracted by bhakti. And because bhakti is the shelter of the sadhaka, because of dhyana on the personal form and bhakti, because of that Krishna is also reciprocating. And because of Krishna's personal favor, the impersonal the impersonalist also makes advancement through personal meditation. And not only that, it's also mentioned that jnana needs bhakti to manifest results, and therefore completely impersonal destination and impersonal meditation is not at all recommended. And therefore neither dharma endowed with honesty and mercy nor vidya or jnana endowed with tapasya can completely purify one's consciousness if bereft of Krishna bhakti. This Bhagavata mentions in the 11th canto. So it's important that bhakti is, even if somebody is practicing Jnana Yoga, bhakti needs to be present. Otherwise, the mind cannot be fully purified. And we have seen that when one is performing purely Jnana Yoga also, they can fall down, like it happened with Saubhari Muni. So he saw two fishes mating, and that disturbed his dhyana, and he fell from that stage. And there are several other examples as well. Therefore, it's very important that we take shelter of bhakti, whether we are Jnana Yoga practitioners or Bhakti Yoga practitioners. For Bhakti Yoga practitioners, it's actually the essence, the core. For Jnana Yoga practitioners, it's the means. So, that's all we have for today. And thank you, Hare Krishna. If there are any questions, we can take.
Hari Bol Prabhu. Thank you for such a nice and detailed lecture on Jnana Yoga. Let me just
Hare
check
Krishna
if...
Prabhu. Dhanyavad.
Yes, Prabhu, if you have any questions, please go
No,
ahead and ask.
I don't have question, Prabhuji. It's little hard to understand, but I will again revisit this lecture because I only know like Bhakti Yoga, but not anything else. So this was enlightening that there are other parts also. So in a way, it opened my senses to yes, there are much more many things other than this. But then, thank you so much for explaining it. You tried your best, Prabhuji. Dhanyavad. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Manish Prabhu. And if you are already knowing Bhakti Yoga, Krishna says that following Bhakti Yoga gives the results of all other yogas as
Yes,
well.
that
Bhagavatam says this.
that concludes to the Jnana. So I'm still trying to
Yes.
do from bhakti. But let's see, and hopefully Krishna will have mercy on all of us.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. Yes, Ashray Madhav Prabhu, do we have any other questions online? Any reflections?
I did not see any questions online, but there were some few people said Hare Krishna, and then that's it. Basically, there were no questions or comments online.
Okay, so if that is the
Yeah,
case,
and recently we were reading the 11th canto and
oh,
at home. Yeah, many of the things you said, I just finished those part. Where Krishna is saying those are the three paths basically, um, where Uddhava is asking that if we have to ignore Vedic scriptures and focus on you, then the question is Vedic scriptures came from you, so how can we ignore? So that is where Krishna keeps on describing, and towards the end, what you said, he says that these are the three paths basically. The Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga basically. He says that towards the end. And there are other paths, but they are actually, I think that is in the purport. There are other paths, but they are like serving one of these paths basically.
yes, all the others are some aspects. Prabhupada also mentions too, in the commentaries
I think your voice is again, I think we are not able to hear you.
No, I was just agreeing with you and saying that in the purports later on it's mentioned how other yogas are aspects of this yoga, like these
Yeah,
three basic yogas.
yeah. Okay, thank you, Prabhu. I think it's 8:37. Thank you
Yes,
for an excellent lecture on this one. Yeah,
thank you,
this is
Prabhu.
very comprehensive what you covered. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
वाञ्छा
कल्पतरुभ्यश्च
कल्पतरुभ्यश्च
कृपा
कृपा
सिन्धुभ्येव च
पतितानां
पतितानां
पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो
वैष्णवेभ्यो
नमो नमः। कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु की जय। शिला प्रभुपाद की जय। Thank you, devotees, again for taking time from your busy schedule and joining this class online. We'll meet again next Wednesday, same time for the online only class. Hari Bol. We'll close the session now.